right. I'm going to get that. There we go. Good. Sunday evening, South Carolina Weather Watchers. We have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, and I'm going to try and get through this forecast as quickly as I can because I know we've been getting relatively longer and longer throughout the evening time frame. So I'm going to, try and push through this one pretty quickly because there's a lot of stuff that we have to talk about tonight. A lot of stuff that we have to talk about tonight. Obviously, we have to talk about the severe weather tomorrow. We have to talk about the week's forecast because it is Sunday night. So we'll be talking about the forecast for March the 15th going into March the 21st. So that's all going to be talked about tonight, as well as just our current weather, tonight's weather, tomorrow, short-term, long-term, temperatures, all of that kind of stuff we have to talk about as well. So we have a lot of stuff to get down with tonight. And so let's go on and cut this music and just not waste any time. So, first off, as always, what is on tap for tonight? Isolated to scattered thunderstorms tonight. Powerful cold front brings heightened severe risk on Monday. Strong non-thunder gusty winds and rainfall on Monday. And drier/colder pattern persists early week. Gradual warm up late week. If you have not hit the like button yet, go in and do so. Right now we have around now that I'm watching, around 11 people that have tuned in so far tonight, and we only have 2 likes. So if you're a part of that group of 9 that have not hit the like button yet, go in and do so. It's free, and you can change your mind at any time. Also, make sure that you go on and hit the subscribe button if you're new. We're at 718, trying to get to 800, and share with your friends, your family members, your acquaintances, people that you don't even talk to. It's free, and you can change your mind at any time. So starting off, what is currently going on with the live radar right now? Well, right now, we do have some rainfall activity. Seems like over here near Gaffney, near Blacksburg, near Jonesville, South Carolina. And these the shower activity that you see right here on your screen, some of it could be potentially a little bit moderate, more than light, at least. So some moderate shower activity. Most of it looking light, though, but some moderate activity possible there. Then if we go in and see what's going on throughout the entire U.S., obviously, elephant in the room, severe weather ongoing. This is the system right here that's going to be bringing our severe weather tomorrow. Right now it's causing chaos over there inside of Illinois, inside of Indiana, inside of Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, eastern Texas. All of these areas right now getting severe weather right now, and a couple of tornado warnings out there, snow on the backside, and the fact really is that even though a lot of these areas just got severe weather, a lot of these areas are getting snowfall right after. So after these areas are receiving tornado activity, snowfall is coming in right after. So I just find that kind of interesting. Over here in Maine, we have some snowfall. We also do have some rainfall inside of Michigan, and then even some rainfall over here inside of the Pacific Northwest. Rainfall, snowfall, mixed precipitation, whatever it may be. And also Florida getting in on a lot of rainfall, North Carolina and Virginia. So just a lot of stuff going on right now. Now for our cloud cover, for the most part, looks like cloud cover is mostly cloudy right now. I mean, I see some cloud cover in the upstate, Midlands, PD areas, Grand Strand areas, low country. And so all of this will equate going into tomorrow, and we'll start to see that cloud cover start to grow a little bit more. Speaking of, if we go in and look at this, remember the blue is the cloud cover, the white is the clear skies. We start off here at 9 o'clock p.m., and if we go in and push this forward, we move all the way into like 3 o'clock in the morning. Look at this cloud cover going on. Now, one thing that you don't want to see is clear pockets, because if you see clear pockets like sunshine, that's going to make things a little bit more unstable for the severe weather event tomorrow, which is not good. If you want stable conditions, you want less severe weather, you want to see more cloud cover. So if you start to see the sun peeking through tomorrow, not a good sign. Not a good sign at all for tomorrow. Now, we do see some clear spots here and there. See some in the Midlands. I see some a little bit inside the low country as well. I mean, here's 12 o'clock p.m. So, if those really get going, then we might see a little bit of an increase. But continuing through tomorrow, mostly cloudy for a lot of us. And then as we get throughout the nighttime hours, Monday going into Tuesday, we get a lot clearer. But still, cloud cover is still bringing its A game as we go into Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon. Now, in terms of our current temperatures, looks like that we have around 68 in Somerville, as well as 66 in Charleston, 67 in Beaufort, 65 Hilton Head Island, and 68 in Orangeburg, 66 in Georgetown, and 65 in Conway, 62 Myrtle Beach, and 67 in Sumter, Florence, Columbia. You also have around a good 66 in Hartsville, 65 Lancaster, Newbury, 64 Greenwood, Lawrence, Union, 63 inside of Gaffney, Spartanburg, 62 in Greenville, and 63 in Clemson and Anderson. Air quality for tonight, no bad air quality like we saw this morning. Still don't know what the main threat of that was, or the main concern and the main ingredient for it was, but we're good of it now. You don't have to limit any time outside tonight due to air quality. And then if we go into low temperatures for tonight, just some very nice temperatures tonight. 60 Greenville, 62 Spartanburg, 63 in Rock Hill, as well as 63 in Newbury, 63 Winsboro, and 64 inside of Columbia. We also have around good 63 in Camden, 63 in Sumter, and 64 in Florence, 62 King Street in Georgetown, as well as 62 in Moncks Corner, Charleston, 62 Walterboro, and 65 in Barnwell, 65 also inside Hilton Head Island, and 61 in Myrtle Beach. High temperatures for tomorrow, you have around 62 in Greenville, 64 Anderson and Spartanburg, as well as 69 in Lawrence. You also have around a good 72 in Rock Hill, 71 in Greenwood, and 74 in Columbia, 73 Newbury, Winsboro, 74 in Cheraw, Camden, 75 in Orangeburg, and 76 in Moncks Corner, 75 Walterboro, 73 in Charleston, Hilton Head Island, 74 in Georgetown, and 70 in Myrtle Beach. Now for your rainfall, as we move throughout the next 24 hours, looks like that we do have a good amount of precipitation. Everybody is at least going to see 1/10 of an inch or more in terms of rainfall as we move throughout the next 24 hours. Everybody will. Doesn't matter where you are, you will see rainfall as we go throughout the next 24 hours. 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch goes on from Myrtle Beach, Georgetown, Moncks Corner, Charleston, Walterboro, Hilton Head Island. Just everywhere. Columbia, Winsboro, Newbury is, one of those spots where it's around 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. You see, continuing 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch for Anderson, Lawrence, Greenville, Spartanburg. And remember, this goes out into 7 o'clock p.m. tomorrow night. So this does not include 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and in the future, if the system is still here by that time frame. And then in the very far upstate, you can see maybe 1/2 an inch to an inch possible up there in the very far upstate, maybe even a bit more than that. Now, in terms of the crazy score for tonight, if you have no idea what the crazy score is, it is a score that we see how crazy the weather is throughout the entire state of South Carolina. And for tonight, we are at a 38. Why are we at a 38? Well, for the most part, noticeable weather conditions from increasing clouds, scattered showers, thunderstorm activity developing overnight, as well as a low severe threat overall, isolated gusty winds, lightning possible, no widespread severe or major hazard like tonight. And it pushes into that moderate due to the appreciable precipitation / thunderstorm chances and that potential for some heavy burst as well. And so that definitely could cause, some breezy conditions as well. Thunderstorm activity can always cause some breezy conditions. So that is why we have it. And so, I was just talking about severe weather, and you're like, okay, well, what's the severe weather for tonight anyway? This is not for tomorrow. This is for tonight. Tonight, slight risk of severe weather up there for Greenville, up there just to the west of Spartanburg, includes Anderson, going up there inside of Central, over in Walhalla, in Pickens County. All these areas are included inside of this slight risk of severe weather I was just talking about. And so, if you're inside the green, that's level 1 out of 5. That's the marginal risk. Rock Hill's included in there. And you see some other areas in the southern upstate areas. What are the threats? Well, in terms of tornadoes, here's the tornado threat. 2% risk of tornadoes for pretty much that entire area. And if you're in the slight risk area, you actually have, and actually a little bit of the marginal risk as well. But you have a 2% hatch risk, meaning that you have a 2% risk of tornadoes and the potential that some of those tornadoes could potentially be EF2 or greater as we move throughout tonight. And then as we move into the upstate, in terms of wind, for the most part, it looks like we have a 15% risk, no hatch area or anything like that. And then we have a 5% risk in that brown area. So 15 in the yellow, 5% in the brown. So that is for, again, damaging winds, no hatch risk for it, so we're not looking for anything too significant. But that's for tonight, and we'll get into tonight, as we go into the models for tonight, that's not a problem. But tomorrow, this is the threat. This is the threat right here that everybody's talking about. You know, I know a lot of people are talking about the threat today because obviously it is ongoing, but a lot more people are concerned about this day right here, tomorrow, Monday, March the 16th, 2026, just because it's very rare that we see this. I mean, like the last time we've had a moderate risk throughout South Carolina, I mean, it was a long, not like a long, long time ago, but a good while ago. And I can even look it up as well. I'll look it up in just a second. When was the last moderate risk inside of South Carolina? And so, as we continue our way through, in terms of the actual hazards for it, the main risk is damaging winds, but let's talk about like the lower risk real quick, starting off with hail. Hail is not the biggest threat. We have a 5% risk up there in the brown, up there inside the very far upstate. And if you're inside the yellow, you have a 15% risk of damaging hail of being up to an inch in diameter. But if you are inside of the black hatched areas, that is the area that we could potentially see 2 inches or greater in terms of diameter for hail. So that's, you know, significant hail right there. That's significant. So that's our lowest threat. And the fact that, you know, 2 inch in diameter hail is our lowest threat means that whatever tornadoes is and whatever damaging winds is definitely not going to be great at all. But our next lowest threat being tornadoes, which it's still significant. Hail is significant. Tornadoes are too. And so this is the tornado threat right here. We have a 2% hatch risk up there inside the very far upstate just to the northwest of Greenville. You have a 5% risk over there inside of Spartanburg. Greenville over there includes areas like Simpsonville is included in there, going into Iva. And those areas have a risk of a 5% risk with a hatch area, meaning that some of those tornadoes could be a bit significant. Then we have the yellow area, which is the majority of the state. This is the 10% risk of tornadoes as we move into tomorrow. And yes, the entire area has a hatch risk, meaning that throughout the low country, throughout the Grand Strand areas, throughout the western Midlands, throughout the southern upstate, the eastern upstate, we have a 10% hatch risk, meaning that there's a 10% chance of tornadoes and a chance that some of those tornadoes could be EF2 or higher. And then if you're inside of the red, you indeed do have a 15% hatch risk, which is the worst. That is the worst risk right here throughout the entire state. And so that is where we have our highest tornado potential, is up there inside of like Florence, near Hartsville, near Dillon, near Darlington, over just to the east of Columbia, like Sumter, Bishopville, Camden's included in there as well. So this is just the second biggest threat. The main threat, though, is damaging winds. That is the main threat. You can see all by the colors here, just chaos going on in this map. But if you are inside of the dark purple area, you have a 60 to a 74% chance of damaging wind, which pretty much means damaging winds are likely for you tomorrow. You are likely going to see damaging winds as you go into tomorrow. Again, that's from Florence over into areas like Camden, like we've just been talking about, Bishopville, Cheraw, Darlington, Chesterfield. Those areas have a 60% chance, 60 to 74% chance of damaging winds, and that could expand. You know, we could see that risk go a little bit further into some other areas while we get closer and closer into tomorrow. You know, the models will get a bit more consistent, stuff like that. If you are inside of the pink, that is a 30% all the way up to, or no. That's a 45% all the way up to a 59%. So that means that, again, you're kind of just under the purple areas. You know, damaging winds are still kind of likely for you, but not as likely as in the purple areas. If you are inside the red, that's a 30 to a 44% chance. That is right there a risk of kind of like a chance, just like a regular chance of damaging winds tomorrow. The yellow, 15%, the brown 5%. And then same thing, like I say, if you are inside of the black hatched areas, those areas right there, meaning that you have the chance that some of these could be hurricane force. Yes, I know. Hurricane force, 75 miles per hour or greater. Category 1 hurricane in terms of gust could potentially go across this region as we go throughout tomorrow. So a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of stuff to talk about, especially as we go throughout tonight. We'll look at the ingredients, we'll look at the stuff like this. But tomorrow is the main day. Again, hail being not the biggest threat, but still a threat. Tornadoes being the second, and then the worst threat being damaging winds. So expect that you're probably going to see some damaging winds tomorrow, especially if you're in the Midlands, and especially if you're over there near like Florence in those areas. So this is day 2, day 3. I mean, just look at how calm it gets as we get into Tuesday. Tuesday, no thunderstorms are expected. Fire weather, nothing. Excessive rainfall, nothing. So let's go and look at the ingredients now. Let's go in and look at the ingredients. So the ingredients, I know a lot of people may not really like the ingredients too much, but you need to make sure that you pay attention to these ingredients because these are the things that fuel the storms. If we look at the composite reflectivity right here, you go in and push this forward, you can see as we get through 11 o'clock p.m. we have shower storm activity going on inside the low country. Again, this is not severe weather. The severe weather is still over here to our west. So we have not received the severe weather, but you can see in the low country, they're already receiving thunderstorm activity a little bit later tonight. You continue your way through, you still have rainfall moving its way over, so maybe seeing some thunderstorm activity as early as 2 o'clock in the morning in the PD areas, the Grand Strand areas. Upstate starting to receive some rainfall, Midlands starting to receive some thunderstorm activity, same thing up there inside of the upstate. I mean, we're seeing thunderstorm activity throughout almost all the regions throughout the nighttime hours. But then there goes the big event, and I know a lot of people are going to be asking, oh, what's the timing for this? What's the timing for that? Well, here's your answer. Looking like right now, as of 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday, we go in and push this forward. You know, we have rainfall, severe weather activity moving into the state as early as 7 a.m. So that pushes through, and then look at the thunderstorms in front of it as well. Those are going to be already in a prime environment. I mean, this environment is already going to be prime. I mean, usually it takes the day to go on and get the environment ready for severe weather standards like today. But the environment here is already going to be like so primed and ready to go that you may have severe weather during a part of the time, like a part of the morning that, you know, it's usually not really expected too much. So right here, again, 8 o'clock in the morning, I mean, you have severe weather moving its way through, damaging wind gusts of up to 60 miles per hour or so, 60, close to 70 miles per hour or so, trying to move its way through 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. And then it really gets going once you get to noon because it starts to get warmer. It starts to, you know, have a little bit more ingredients over here on this eastern side. In my opinion, I think that the highest ingredients, let me go and get my pen out real quick. I think that the highest ingredients in terms of CAPE, which we'll show that in just a second, is definitely going to be in this area right here. And let me go and make that a bit bigger. It's going to be in this area right here. I think this is where the highest ingredients is going to be at. Now, like I said, the main risk obviously is up here like in the Florence areas, but you know, like I said, I would not be surprised if they expanded some of those higher risk more into the low country areas, more into the southern Midland areas, more into the Grand Strand areas, just because the ingredients are just so plentiful. But if we go in and push this forward even more, I mean, here's 2 o'clock p.m. damaging winds moving throughout Columbia, moving throughout like Rock Hill, moving throughout parts over there near like Allendale by 2 p.m., moving through 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock p.m., now moving throughout Florence, you know, the main area, moving throughout the low country by around 3 to 4 p.m., and then you still have some shower activity behind it, but for the most part, we are done with this system as we get into tomorrow night, and then we dry off as we get throughout Tuesday. So a lot of stuff, you know, happening here. And of course, this is not exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, you're going to see some differences. This is on an hour increment scale. So things are going to change. This is just a model. Models are always wrong, but can guide us in the right direction. But let's go on and look at the dew points. Do we have the moisture? I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, we're up into the 60s. No doubt we have the moisture to do this. Do we have the winds in the upper atmosphere, the kinematics with it? Well, we're going to push this forward right over here. We sure do. We sure do. I mean, we have winds 90 to 100 knots. We definitely have the winds necessary for this to get rotating storms going on. And then finally, one of the main ones, Cape, is the Cape here. I mean, we have Cape as early as tonight. Like currently inside of the atmosphere as we speak, there's already 1,000 joules per kilogram right now over inside of the Low Country right now, over inside the Southern Midlands right now. But luckily there's no storms going on right now, so not too much to really take advantage of. And also there's not really too much wind inside the atmosphere as well. That's really kicking right now. But we already have 1,000 joules per kilogram. So when I tell you that this atmosphere is already primed and ready, it already is. We have around 1,000 joules per kilogram. We have 800, 900, which even though, it's not 1,000, that's still pretty good. That's still pretty strong. We're seeing 1,600, 1,700, 1,800, maybe even 1,900 in some spots over here inside of the state by 11 a.m. going into 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Even some spots can potentially get to 2,000 joules per kilogram over here inside of South Carolina. And so, I'm seeing supercell composites. They're saying supercells possible, significant hail, possible hazard type, tornado is there. So this atmosphere is ready for this risk. And then as it pushes its way out, it's gone. And, our severe threat will hopefully try to be over by around 5 to 6 p.m. or so once it moves out, because there's going to be no more Cape in the atmosphere for it. But in terms of starting time, seems like, the Cape tries to move its way in again around like 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, and then it's just going to last all the way from 6 a.m. all the way through to around 5 p.m. Reminder, I will be live tomorrow. I will be live covering this event tomorrow. So if you want to tune in, you don't have to stay the whole time. But if you want to tune in tomorrow, you can tune in anytime you want. Probably somewhere between 7 a.m. all the way through to 5 p.m. How long will I be live for? It could be hours. We don't know. We don't know. We'll just have to wait to see how tomorrow plays out in general. But I will be live probably for a significant period of time. So we'll see. We'll see. You can tune in at any time, and especially whenever you get that severe thunderstorm warning or you get that tornado warning, you want to go in and tune in, you obviously can. So that's it in terms of the ingredients. We know the ingredients are there. That's what we're looking at. And so I think that's about all that I really have to say in terms of the short-term future, in terms of the severe weather. If you have any more questions, percentages, I do see some, asking about, well, what's the percentages for my area? We can talk about that when we go on and talk with the audience. But first, before we get into that, let's go on real quick and just shift away from the severe weather for a second. We'll be back to it and just talk about the long-term future. So past this severe weather event, what are we going to be seeing here? So if we go on and push this forward, just look at how dry it's going to get. We get into Wednesday, we get into Thursday. Just overall, it looks like things are really trending upward in terms of our rainfall activity. And when I say upward, I mean like drier in terms of rainfall activity. Because I know a lot of people are a bit tired of the rainfall, but, obviously we have a drought going on right now. So, even you may be tired of the rainfall, but unfortunately, the rainfall definitely is needed, especially up there inside the upstate. So I'm very happy that we're going to get this rainfall tomorrow. And, we'll get to see what that does with the drought. But, again, we'll see what happens next week. We continue to move our way forward Saturday, Sunday of next week. Just looks like a nice weekend is in store for next weekend. We'll see what happens as we move on throughout next week. But seems like next weekend could probably be pretty nice. We go in all the way into the week after next week, going into Monday, Tuesday. Rainfall definitely possible early the week after next week, which I should honestly say next week now because it's Sunday now, so it's the start of the week. So next week, you could have some activity early next week. We'll see what happens there. And then, nothing like really sticks out to me in terms of like major rainfall activity, major storm systems. Nothing's really pushing out saying this is something that we're going to have to watch for. And I've been saying that for the past couple of days, that after this system passes right here tomorrow, what is there really to watch for in terms of rainfall activity and storm activity? And if, you continue your way forward, I mean, look at this. This is like barely anything, which is not good for the drought. Not good at all. Now, obviously, we will have temperature shifts, we will have temperature changes, but we'll go in and check out the temperatures, in just a second. But you're not really looking for too much here, except for just like some little rainfall activity here and there. But let's go on now and talk with the audience. We're still going to talk about this week's forecast update. I just want to get all this severe weather stuff done with, and talk with the audience real quick. Then we'll go on and talk about severe weather, and then we'll talk about the 4 areas outside of South Carolina, and then we'll be out of here for tonight. So let's go on and talk with the audience real quick, see what they have to say for tonight, see what the questions are, see what the comments, concerns are. Live audience, here we go. And then we're going to start off with my Aunt Lou, who is here first. She says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. I pray that everyone had a great Sunday. Well, thank you so much for that. Mr. Chris says, good evening, everyone. Hope you all had a great day. Just got home from one good church service. Well, glad to hear that as well. Ms. Tolliver says, good evening. Lovely day at my house. Looks like things are going to get nasty tomorrow. Should we be worried? I wouldn't say worried. I'd say concerned, but I wouldn't say worried. Would not say worried. You should never be worried or scared. You should be ready for it. You should be prepared for it instead. So nobody should ever be worrying about a weather event or anything like that. Always just be prepared for it, because if you're prepared for it, you'll be ready, and you shouldn't have, you'll have stuff to worry about, obviously. Maybe like after the storm, damage or anything like that. Rather it be like trees down, power outages, stuff like that. That can happen. But before the storm, you shouldn't be worried. Mr. Chris says, currently it's 70 degrees here and windy. Well, thank you so much for that weather report over there. Milo says, today in Georgetown it was nice and sunny. Well, thank you so much for that. Then Miss Tolliver says, or talking to somebody else, it's not windy at my house currently. Then my Aunt Lewis says, we reached a high of 71 degrees. Clouds in and out all day. Same thing at my house. Honestly, I think it was like sprinkling a little bit earlier, but the sun was out at the same time. So that's what we were looking at there over where I was today. Continuing throughout, Ms. Tolliver said, Joseph, are you thinking more of a tornado risk or straight line winds and hail? I'm thinking more of a straight line wind threat, then a tornado risk, then a hail threat. Straight line winds are going to be the main threat. I think more people will definitely see wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour than people seeing tornadoes. And hail, hail is always, a concern throughout storms, because not every, there probably will be possibly some more areas that receive hail than tornadoes, because you need to have a lot of stuff to get going for a tornado to happen. Hail, you don't need as much. So the risk for tornadoes, though, is higher, though, than hail. Continuing our way down, though, my Lucy this morning was partly cloudy until the sun came out beautifully. And then currently Georgetown is 66 degrees. Chris says not looking forward for this severe weather. And then my name says, hello, Jay. Hello to you. Thad says, good evening, Joseph in the 360 weather family. I trust all is well. It was quite a windy out at the moment. Earlier, we had a windy yet beautiful day here in San Antonio. Mr. Chris also says, please remember to go hit the like button and subscribe button. Also share with everyone that you know. Now is a good time to do so with the severe threat. Absolutely. If you have not shared to somebody, make sure that you go on and do so. It's free. You can change your mind. They can change their mind at any time. And it really does help me out. Continue our way down. I'm not looking forward to this change in weather. That said, I really stayed inside today. I was extremely drained. Stayed in my robe for the better part of the morning and the afternoon. Well, first off, thank you so much for that weather report you said earlier. And, no problem with really staying inside. It was a windy day out, and it's, still going to be a bit windy tonight as well. What time does the weather start tomorrow? I went over that a bit earlier. But if you did not get your exact location like you wanted to, or you missed it, just let me know. Continuing down, Trail says, greetings everyone, greetings to you. Maya Lewis says, here in Georgetown, there's a nip in the air. In other words, the temperature is dropping. Well, right now, temperatures will continue to drop as we go throughout tonight. Mr. Anthony says, good evening everyone, good evening to you, and then continue our way down. How does Georgetown look in terms of the winds? In terms of your percentages over there in Georgetown, South Carolina, let me go in and pull this up over here so I can get a in-depth look at it. If I go in and check out the day 2 risk for winds, day 2, Georgetown has a 30% hatched risk of damaging winds, meaning that you have a 30% risk of damaging winds, and some of those winds could potentially be significant of up to 75 miles per hour. Then Ms. Tolliver said, what's the percentage of damaging winds in Somerville? In Somerville, same thing, 30% risk of damaging winds, but would not be surprised one bit, and actually kind of cut Somerville in half. Around the northern part has around a 45% risk of damaging winds, while like the downtown parts, going down to Knightsville, going down towards, just trying to find an area like the Asheboro areas, Iron Gate areas, Kings Grant areas, those areas have still like a 30% risk of damaging winds. So, like, I would not be surprised one bit. Would not be surprised if they encounter and they put that entire region there inside of the 45% risk. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. Drying out sounds great. Hopefully we will not lose electricity. Well, we can only hope, but I mean, somebody will lose power tomorrow. Hopefully it's not any of us, though. If, and then continue our way through. Maya Lewis says, hopefully Santia Electric will not need to turn off our power. And then, oh my goodness, that's a lot of wind coming our way. And then Ms. Tolliver says, doesn't hail typically precede a tornado? I mean, usually in a sense it does, but not always. Because, there are times to where it's not raining or it's not, doing anything near a tornado. It's just a regular tornado there. And there are some cases to where it's not raining, but it's hailing. No rain, just full-on hail. No rain and a tornado. So, usually you don't have to go on and see hail to get that tornado. But it's just determines on the situation. And then Mr. Gray says, looks like amongst corners in the 45%. You are. You're in the 45% hatch risk. You have a 45% chance of damaging winds with a 10%, or not 10%, but they kind of changed it up. But a SIG 1 risk, meaning that potentially it could be up to 75 miles per hour in terms of your wind gust. And so that's pretty much, I don't see anything outside the chat for me. So we will come back. If you have any more severe weather questions, please put it inside the chat. We will read all of it. But before we get into that and we get back to that, let's go on real quick and talk about the week forecast, because it is Sunday. It is Sunday. So that means that it is time for us to go on and talk about the week and see what's going to happen this week in terms of, severe weather, in terms of rainfall, in terms of temperatures and stuff like that. So if we move over here to the eastern U.S. and we look at the climate, we look at the weekly, and we look at our temperatures, we will be below average. We will be below average this week for the most part in terms of temperatures. I mean, you have like the western upstate, parts of the southern Midlands, a good amount of like the coastal areas. And it looks like that a lot of us really are just trying to get a bit cooler this week, which makes sense. But if you're inside like these northern areas, like the upstate going on inside of the northern PD areas, those areas kind of are just inside of just a regular zone, not really too much in terms of below average temperatures. And then in terms of our precipitation this week will be below average. Not a shocker at all. I mean, if you just saw what we saw earlier in terms of how we have like nothing really to look forward to in terms of the future, this makes sense. So not good for the drought. We want to have that precipitation to get this drought out, but Unfortunately for this week, looks like that we are going to have another week. We have another week of just dry conditions. So we're going to go on real quick and, look at the actual temperature map itself. We're going to start off here on Monday, and obviously there goes the cold front right there, moving its way through. Move through all the way to 2 p.m., 5 p.m., going all the way to 8 o'clock p.m. I mean, we have temperatures all the way like 19, 20 degrees below average. And so that will continue through Tuesday. I mean, that'll go all the way through Wednesday. And, it will get progressively warmer as we go throughout the week, but we will still be below average. Now, we will start getting like near normal once we get to around Thursday or so. Once you get into Friday, things start to warm up a little bit more. Then as you get into Saturday, Sunday, I mean, things really start to warm up. But then some more cold air will definitely be trying to move its way through as we get into like early parts of next week. But definitely a warm up coming up as we get towards the end of the week. But we have to get through this cold air first, which I know a lot of people are not happy to see, but we do have to go through it. And if we go on and look at our temperatures, exactly and see what the actual temperatures look like as we move throughout, going throughout the week. We have Monday, 2 o'clock p.m., 70s going throughout this area. Through 5 p.m., going all the way through Tuesday. I mean, we have below freezing temperatures Monday night going into Tuesday. So we will see 30s going on all the way throughout the upstate down into the Midlands. That will go all the way through. And then by the time we get into, Tuesday, our highs being in the 50s, you go into Wednesday, lows getting back down inside of the frigid, freezing temperatures. And so, like I said, we will progressively warm up. We'll get out of the freezing temperatures once we get into like Friday. I mean, look at us, 70 degrees back on the table on Friday. And then as we move into the weekend, I mean, we're seeing 80s again as we go into Saturday. Sunday comes along. Widespread 80s potentially possible as we go through Sunday. But then that cold air will come in as we get into the week after. And we will start to see some more 40s coming throughout the state. Now, if we go and look at the ensembles real quick and just see what's going on in terms of our actual temperatures for like the future. I don't want to look at just a deterministic model just because it's only one ensemble. It's a lot of models combined, like an average. And for the most part, I mean, it does look like 40s moving throughout. You see some 50s going throughout here and there. But for the most part, staying inside the 60s and 70s for highs, even as we move into like the last couple of days of March. So we'll see what happens there. But that's still 380 hours out, so that will definitely change. And so that's all that I can see here throughout for our temperatures. What's going on in terms of our forecast for how much rainfall we're going to receive this week? Well, it seems like this week, for the most part, we will continue to just see not as much. You see around half an inch up here inside of the upstate, maybe 7/10 of an inch over here near Myrtle Beach, half an inch in Charleston, maybe a fourth, or 4/10 of an inch, over there inside of Columbia. And then you may actually see like a fourth, 0.1, 0.3, 0.3 up there inside of Sumter, Florence, these areas. So honestly, just not a whole lot of rainfall. Just not a whole lot. And that's not what you want to see right now. But that's all that I can see here throughout the entire state in terms of our week forecast. So that's over with. Let me check out the chat. I see Ms. Chris says our evening service at church. We had prayer time for this weather coming in. Great to see. And then Maya Lewis says, here we go, seesaw weather. Yes, we're getting back to it. We're getting back to the seesaw weather of just cold air, then warm air, then cold air, then warm air. It's just going to continue going back and forth as we go throughout this week, going into next week. And so now that is all out of the way, I don't see any other questions about severe weather, so we're going to jump real quick and talk about the 4 areas outside of South Carolina. You might be asking, 4 areas outside of South Carolina, what am I talking about? I'm talking about San Antonio, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as well as Duncan, Oklahoma. And the reason why we talk about these 4 areas is because we have people from these areas who tune in almost nightly, and because they tune in almost nightly, we go on and give them their forecast for them. Starting off with San Antonio. You have low temperatures tonight at 44, high temperatures for tomorrow at 60, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 39. Precipitation not expected. It will be a bit hazy and windy as you go throughout tonight, and then tomorrow night it will be breezy. But for the most part, you have a red flag warning. So wind gusts tonight of up to 45 miles per hour, tomorrow 30 miles per hour, And I do think actually that breezy should actually go during the day because you have 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts tomorrow, but tomorrow night winds are going to become just light and variable. So I think that was meant for tomorrow morning. But still, wind gusts of up to 45, 50 miles per hour are still expected as you go throughout tonight. Now, in terms of your severe weather, excessive rainfall for right now, looks like that you have nothing. I mean, you don't have too much really to talk about except for this red flag warning. Fire conditions potentially possible tomorrow. You have a little elevated risk there, but for the most part, that's it. Excessive rainfall for you looks like that you are, for the most part, good, so we're not seeing anything for you there. Then as we go into your future, for the most part, you will be warming up. 79 on Wednesday, 85 on Thursday, Friday, 90 degrees, Saturday, 94. So you will really be warming up as you go into this weekend. This weekend looking to be hot but nice. Hot but nice. Now, in terms of Raleigh, North Carolina, one of the more active areas, low temperatures tonight at 63, high temperatures for tomorrow at around 74, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 32. Look how that cold blast comes through and knocks your lows from 63 tonight to 32 tomorrow. Showers are likely, and maybe even a storm tonight. Tomorrow, severe thunderstorms are possible as you go throughout Monday, potentially even going into Monday night, whenever that severe thunderstorms, plural, potentially hits you. And so, you will see that tomorrow. Obviously, if I just said severe thunderstorms are pretty much expected tomorrow, obviously you have some. You are in a moderate risk of severe weather, a moderate risk of severe weather. What does that mean? You have a 15% hatched risk of tornadoes for tomorrow. 15% hatched risk of tornadoes for tomorrow, meaning that you have a 15% risk, and the potential that hurricane could potentially, I'm in the complete wrong season. Whoa, that was crazy. Tornado could potentially be EF2 or greater in terms of its strength. Then in terms of wind is also there as well. You have a 60% hatch risk in terms of damaging winds, meaning that as well as that tornado threat, you have a 60% chance of damaging winds, and then also the potential that those damaging winds could be 75 miles per hour or greater. And then for hail, you have a 15% hatch risk, meaning you have a 15% risk. Some of those could potentially be up to 2 inches in diameter. Nothing else for you, though. In terms of excessive rainfall, you don't have any of that. In terms of your future, though, after this, you will be cooling down, obviously. 49 on Tuesday, 47 on Wednesday, 60 on Thursday, 68 Friday, 74 on Saturday, 75 Sunday. So you will warm up. You will warm up for sure. But for right now, it looks like that you just have to continue to just wait this one out as you go throughout Monday night. Make sure that your plans are in place. For Philadelphia, you have low temperatures tonight at 49, high temperatures for tomorrow at around 68, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 32. Slight chance of rain tonight, then it will increasingly go up to a 90% chance. Then tomorrow, severe thunderstorms. It's going to be a bit breezy. Same thing tomorrow night, severe thunderstorms. In terms of your severe weather and excessive rainfall, you have you actually have an enhanced risk of severe weather. You have a 2% chance of tornadoes, no hatch risk. So your biggest threat is actually not even tornadoes or hail. You have no threat of any sort of hail tomorrow. Your biggest threat is damaging winds. You have a 45% risk of damaging winds for tomorrow. So you have to make sure that you are aware of that. Wind gusts of up to 60 miles per hour is definitely a possibility. Again, as you have like that 45% risk. So that's almost a 50% chance. You're not inside of the hatch, though. You are not inside the hatch, so I'm not saying that you don't have the threat of potentially getting, 75 mile per hour wind gusts or higher, but there's no hatch there, meaning that for right now, just looking like a 45% chance of 60 mile per hour wind gust. In terms of your excessive rainfall, you actually do have a threat for excessive rainfall on tomorrow as well. Isolated flash flooding is possible for you, so make sure that you are prepared for that, just in case. Now, in terms of your future, it will continue to cool down. 42 on Tuesday, 41 on Wednesday. You will warm up back into the 50s, but that's about it. You're not really going to get too much higher than the 50s as you get into this weekend. And then the final location being Duncan, Oklahoma, one of the calmest locations. with low temperatures tonight at 26, high temperatures for tomorrow at 51, then low temperatures tomorrow night at 29. Wind gusts as high as 40 miles per hour tonight. Tomorrow getting up to around 25, but after that, no precipitation, no severe weather, no excessive rainfall, so you are good. Now, there is a little bit of a fire risk as you go into Tuesday, March the 17th, but, I mean, don't burn anything if you don't have to on Tuesday. And then after that, it looks like for the most part that you as well will continue to warm up. 81 Wednesday, 90 on Thursday, 96 on Saturday. I mean, you might be talking about high 90s going into this weekend. And so that's it for the 4 areas outside of South Carolina. So let's go on and see what's going on throughout the entire U.S. weather news-wise, and then we'll look at the top fans for tonight, and then we will be out of here. A major winter storm will continue to bring blizzard conditions, heavy snowfall, icing, and strong winds through Monday across the upper Midwest and the upper Great Lakes. A line of storms will be capable of producing widespread damaging winds, tornadoes, and some hail from the Mid-South to the Ohio Valley and the Southeast through tonight, moving into the Mid-Atlantic and the Carolinas on Monday. So a lot of stuff to talk about, obviously. Obviously being our severe weather. And obviously the blizzard-like condition that's going on throughout the entire state of Iowa, Wisconsin, southern Minnesota, northwestern Illinois. I mean, blizzard-like conditions going on right behind the severe weather event. I mean, this storm is huge. This storm is causing windy conditions from like Kansas all the way up into like the New England areas. It's causing blizzard conditions. It's causing fire weather from Oklahoma to Texas to New Mexico. It's causing, behind the system, extreme heat over there in California, Nevada, going on in Arizona. It's causing freezing conditions in Alabama, Georgia. It's going to bring some freezing conditions for us. Going to bring, obviously, flash flooding as well. I mean, this system is just bringing everything to everybody. So everybody has gotten impacted by the storm in by one way or another. No matter where you are, you will get impacted by the storm. So that's all that I have to say there. Let's go in and see the top fans of the night for tonight. If you have no idea what the top fans is, it's pretty much something that we see see who's the top contributors inside the chat for tonight. And let me go ahead and count them up. Takes about like 2 seconds or so. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I see 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yep, so, if I'm not mistaken, Miss Chris was here, and he is the number 1 top fan of the night for tonight. Not here first. My Aunt Lou was here first tonight, but, she does come in second, and then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Miss Tolliver was number 3. So them 3 right there got the top fans of the night for tonight. Again, if you want to be a part of the top fans, you can by being here at 9 o'clock, being here early, being active inside the chat, and being a subscriber. I mean, if you're not a subscriber, you can't type anyway, so you have to be a subscriber. So let's go on and give them 3 a round of applause. So that's all I have to say here. I don't see anything else outside the chat. If you want to go in and send me any severe weather pictures, you can by sending it to scweather360@gmail.com. Again, that is scweather360@gmail.com, as well as Twitter. I never mentioned this. I probably should have. But on Twitter, I have a account, obviously. So if you want to go in and give me a picture and you don't feel like going throughout Gmail, you can just send it to Twitter at 360_weather. Yeah, again, that's 360_weather. So that's what we're seeing here. And then for the most part, I think that's all I have to say really for tonight as well. So make sure you tune in tomorrow morning for your Monday morning forecast update. We have a good amount of stuff to talk about there. And make sure you tune in tomorrow during the day, rather if you're there for only a minute or if you're there for the whole time, doesn't matter. Go on and tune in, share it out with people. That's how we go on and get this information out, is by you sharing it with people. We're going to get through this tomorrow. You just have to go on and make sure that you are prepared for it. Make sure your severe weather plans are in place, tornado plans are in place. That should have been taken care of today, but if you have time tomorrow morning, go on and do so. I will be back tomorrow. make sure you hit those two buttons before you leave.